Welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that is true, powerful, and full of lessons. It is the story of Mihailo Tolotos. You may not know his name, but once you hear his journey, you will never forget it. This is a story about dreams, struggles, and courage. It will take you from a small, quiet life to a place of challenge and victory. But there is a twist, a moment when everything could have ended. So stay with me until the end, because every chapter will give you a reason to keep watching. Let's begin. Mihailo Tolotos was not born into fame, wealth, or power. He was born in a small place, where people lived simple lives and did not dream big. The streets were quiet, the houses close together, and neighbors knew each other's names. From a young age, Mihailo had a spark in his eyes. He was curious. He always asked questions. He wanted to know how things worked, why people thought a certain way, and how the world outside his small town looked. While other children played without worry, Mihailo would sit and listen to stories from older people. He wanted to learn. But life in his hometown was not easy. Opportunities were rare. Many people thought that if you were born there, you would live and die there. No one expected something great from a boy like Mihailo. Some even told him, "Don't dream too big. It will only hurt you." But Mihailo could not stop dreaming. He believed that life could be bigger, wider, and more exciting than what he saw every day. Still, he had no idea that his journey would be filled with obstacles. There would be moments when his courage was tested, times when he felt alone, and days when giving up seemed easier than going forward. Yet, somewhere deep inside, he carried a fire of belief that his story was meant for more. And that belief was about to be tested in ways he could never imagine. Chapter 1. The small beginning. Mihailo Tolotos was born in a small town that many people in the world have never heard of. It was a place where the air was fresh, the streets were narrow, and the houses stood close together like old friends whispering secrets. Life there was slow and simple. People worked hard during the day and sat outside in the evenings, talking, laughing, and sharing stories. Most of the people were farmers, shopkeepers, or workers in small businesses. They lived quiet lives, and for many, the idea of leaving the town was only a dream they spoke about but never tried to reach. Mihailo's family was humble. They were not rich, but they were full of love. His parents taught him simple but important values: respect, honesty, and hard work. They did not have expensive things, but they gave him something far more valuable: encouragement. They told him, "Always try your best, even when things are hard." His mother would say this while gently placing her hand on his shoulder, and he would feel her belief in him. From a young age, Mihailo was different from other children in the neighborhood. While most kids spent their afternoons running through fields or playing in the dirt roads, Mihailo would often sit under a tree with a book in his hands. He loved reading. Even though the town had no big library, he would borrow books from his school or from neighbors. Sometimes he read so much that his friends would laugh and call him the little professor. But Mihailo didn't mind. He was curious about everything: the world, nature, people, and ideas. He wanted to know how airplanes could fly, how plants grew, why stars shone in the night sky, and what was beyond the hills that surrounded his small town. His curiosity made him see the world differently. Where others saw just another day, Mihailo saw a chance to learn something new. If a stranger came to town, Mihailo would be the first to greet them, asking questions about where they came from and what life was like there. While other children were shy around new people, Mihailo wanted to hear their stories. But not everyone understood him. In his town, many people believed that dreaming too big was dangerous. They thought that if you tried to reach too far, you would only fall harder. When Mihailo spoke about wanting to study in a big city or travel to another country, some adults would smile politely, but then they would whisper to each other, "He will grow up and learn that life is not like that." Others would tell him directly, "Stay here. Work here. This is your place." Yet Mihailo did not let these words stop him. In his mind, he could already see a life that was bigger than the one in front of him. He imagined himself studying in a large school, meeting people from all over the world, and doing something meaningful. He didn't know exactly what it would be, but he knew it would be important. One small moment in his childhood showed just how determined he was. It was a quiet evening when he was about 10 years old. He was walking home from school and saw a group of older boys playing football in the street. They were laughing loudly, but Mihailo noticed something else. They had made the ball themselves, tying together old cloth and rope. It wasn't a real football, but they played as if it was. Mihailo stopped and thought for a moment. If they could make a football with what they had, then maybe he could also make something big from what little he had. That night, he wrote in his small notebook, "One day I will do something great, even if I start with nothing." He kept that notebook for years, and it became a symbol of his belief. That moment was small, but it was powerful. It showed that Mihailo understood something many adults still struggled with. Greatness doesn't always come from having the best tools or the perfect start. Sometimes it comes from using what you have, no matter how little it is, and turning it into something valuable. Still, Mihailo was just a boy in a small town. He didn't yet know how hard the road ahead would be. He didn't know about the challenges, the heartbreaks, or the moments of deep doubt that would test him. He didn't know that life was about to place him in situations far beyond anything he had imagined. But little did he know, his life was about to change forever. Chapter 2. The first big challenge. Mihailo's early years were filled with curiosity and small dreams. But as he grew older, reality began to show its harder side. The first big challenge came when his family faced financial trouble. His father lost his job at the small workshop where he worked for many years. The family's income was suddenly cut in half, and every day became a struggle to pay for food, school fees, and other basic needs. Mihailo was still young, but he could feel the tension in the air. He could see it in his mother's tired eyes and hear it in the quiet conversations his parents had at night when they thought he was asleep. For the first time, Mihailo began to understand what poverty felt like. It wasn't just about having less money. It was about having to give up things you loved, cancel plans, and carry a constant worry in your heart. His parents told him they might not be able to pay for all his school books that year. For Mihailo, who loved to learn, this was like telling a bird it could not fly. To make things worse, people in the town began to whisper. Some said it was time for Mihailo to be realistic. A few even suggested he should stop thinking about studying further and instead find small jobs to help the family. "Dreams won't feed you," one man told him sharply. Another said, "You are smart, but the world is not fair. Learn to accept it." Those words hurt more than the hunger in his stomach. One rainy afternoon, Mihailo sat alone on the old wooden bench outside his school. The rain was falling softly, and the streets were almost empty. He held his small notebook, the one where he wrote his dreams, and stared at the pages. For the first time, he wondered if his dreams were possible at all. His mind was full of doubt. Could a boy from a poor family really change his life? Could he really see the big world outside his small town? In that quiet moment, Mihailo thought about 5 simple words: hope, fail, try, again, and dream. These words would become important in his life, and they are words you, as an English learner, should remember too. Hope means to believe something good can happen in the future. Even when things are hard, hope is what keeps you going. Mihailo told himself, I must have hope. Fail means to not succeed. Everyone fails at some point. Mihailo thought, if I fail, it will hurt, but it will not be the end. Try means to make an effort. No success can happen without trying. Mihailo whispered to himself, I will try, even if it is hard. Again means to do something one more time after failing. Mihailo decided, if I fall, I will try again. Dream means to imagine and believe in a better future. Without dreams, life can feel empty. Mihailo looked at his notebook and said, I will never stop dreaming. That day, something changed in his heart. He didn't suddenly get more money, and the problems didn't disappear, but he made a silent promise to himself. I will not give up. No matter how many times I fail, I will try again. Days turned into weeks, and Mihailo began to look for small ways to move forward. He started helping at a neighbor's shop in exchange for old newspapers and used books. He studied by candlelight at night when electricity was too expensive to use for long. He stopped buying small snacks at school so he could save a little money for supplies. His friends didn't always understand, but Mihailo kept going. And then, something unexpected happened. One morning, his school principal called him into the office. On the desk was a letter. It was from a small organization in the city that gave scholarships to students from poor families. They had heard about Mihailo from one of his teachers. The letter said they wanted him to apply for a scholarship that could pay for his education. Mihailo held the paper in his hands, his heart racing. This could be the chance he had been waiting for. But there was a catch. The scholarship had strict requirements, and the competition would be tough. If he failed, there would be no second chance. Chapter 3. The Big Leap. The scholarship letter lay on Mihailo's desk for days. Every time he looked at it, his heart beat faster. It was not just a piece of paper. It was an open door to a completely different life. If he won, it would cover his tuition at a top school in the city, hundreds of miles away from his small town. It would mean better teachers, better books, and better chances for his future. But it also meant leaving his family, his friends, and everything familiar behind. At night, Mihailo lay awake, staring at the ceiling. His thoughts were loud and heavy. What if I fail? What if I can't keep up? What if I leave everything and lose everything? He had never been to a big city before. He didn't know anyone there. The stories he had heard were both exciting and frightening. Busy streets, fast life, strangers everywhere. Part of him wanted to stay where life was safe, slow, and known. But another part, the part that kept him awake, whispered, "This is your chance. Take it." When he told people about the scholarship, not everyone was happy for him. Some shook their heads and said, "It's too dangerous. The city will eat you alive." Others said, "You will fail. Boys from here don't make it out there." Even a few friends told him, "It's better to stay with us. At least you know what you have here." Those words were like heavy stones in Mihailo's heart. He had heard similar things before, but this time they cut deeper. This was not a small dream. This was a big step. And big steps often scare people, even the ones who care about you. One evening, Mihailo sat under the same old tree where he used to read as a child. The sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and orange. He took out his notebook, the one where he had written his dream years ago. One day I will do something great, even if I start with nothing. He read those words slowly, then closed his eyes. In that moment, he thought about 5 simple but powerful English words that would guide his choice: risk, step, change, future, and courage. Risk means taking a chance, even when you might lose. Mihailo knew, without risk, there is no reward. Step means to move forward. Every big journey starts with one small step, he told himself. Change means something becomes different. Mihailo knew, change is not easy, but it is the path to growth. Future means the time that has not yet come. My future will be decided by what I do now, he thought. Courage means the strength to do something even when you are afraid. Mihailo whispered, I will choose courage over fear. The next morning, he made his decision. He walked to the school office and told the principal, I will apply for the scholarship. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled. The application process was not easy. He had to write essays, answer questions about his goals, and take exams that tested his knowledge. He studied late into the night, sometimes by candlelight when the electricity failed. Weeks later, the letter arrived. Mihailo opened it slowly, his heart pounding. The first line made him drop into a chair. Weak with relief and joy, we are pleased to inform you that you have been awarded the scholarship. His dream had taken a giant leap forward. But this was only the beginning. Within a month, Mihailo was packing a small bag. He didn't have many clothes or things to take, but he carried the most important items: his notebook, a family photo, and a heart full of determination. On the day he left, his mother hugged him tightly, whispering, Go and make your future, my son. The bus ride to the city felt like traveling to another world. The streets grew wider, the buildings taller, and the noise louder. Mihailo pressed his face against the window, trying to take in everything at once. This was the big leap he had dreamed of, the chance to grow, to learn, to become something more. The journey had begun, but the hardest part was still to come. Chapter 4. The struggle and the fall. The city was nothing like Mihailo had imagined. It was bigger, louder, and faster than anything he had ever seen. Cars rushed through crowded streets, tall buildings touched the clouds, and people walked quickly with serious faces, barely looking at each other. The air was filled with the sound of engines, voices, and horns. Mihailo felt small, almost invisible in the middle of it all. When he arrived at his new school, the shock grew even stronger. The classrooms were larger, the teachers spoke faster, and the other students seemed so confident. Many of them came from wealthy families and had been taught by private tutors. They wore expensive clothes, carried the latest gadgets, and talked about places Mihailo had never heard of. He felt out of place, like a bird that had flown too far from its nest. The first weeks were the hardest. Mihailo struggled to understand some lessons because the teaching style was different from what he knew. In group discussions, he stayed quiet, afraid of making mistakes. Sometimes, when he tried to speak, his accent made others laugh. He once mispronounced a word during a presentation, and a few students whispered and smiled behind his back. It stung. He also made practical mistakes. He got lost on his way to school more than once. He didn't know how to use the public transport cards correctly and once boarded the wrong bus, ending up far from his apartment. Once, he forgot to submit a homework assignment online because he had never used that kind of system before. The teacher gave him a failing mark without a second thought. The pressure built up. At night, in his small rented room, Mihailo would sit by the window, staring at the city lights. They no longer looked magical. They looked cold, distant, and unreachable. He began to think, maybe they were right. Maybe I don't belong here. One evening, after a particularly hard day, Mihailo returned to his room and collapsed on his bed. He had failed an important test, been laughed at during class, and received an email warning him that his grades were slipping. He felt crushed. In that moment, he thought seriously about quitting. The thought of going back home, where life was simpler and safer, was tempting. But then, he remembered the words he had taught himself back in his hometown. Slowly, he repeated them out loud, as if trying to convince himself, I can try again. I will not stop. Every mistake is a lesson. I am stronger than I feel right now. This is not the end. He said them again and again until his breathing calmed. These phrases were simple, but they were like small lights in the darkness. As an English learner, you can remember them too. They are short, powerful, and easy to say when life feels heavy. The next morning, Mihailo woke up early and made a plan. He decided he would ask for help instead of hiding his struggles. He started visiting the school library every day after class. He spoke to teachers about the things he didn't understand. He joined a small study group, even though he was shy. At first, progress was slow. Some days were still frustrating. But step by step, things began to improve. Still, life in the city was far from easy. Mihailo had to work part-time on weekends to cover his living costs. This meant less rest, less time for homework, and constant tiredness. Sometimes, the noise of the city felt like it was pressing on his chest. One rainy night, after finishing a late shift at a small cafe, he walked back to his room, soaked and shivering. His shoes were wet, his hands cold, and his mind full of doubt again. He thought, I am trying so hard, but is it enough? And then, something happened that changed everything. Again. Chapter 5. The rise and the victory. The moment that changed everything came on a cold winter morning. Mihailo was sitting in the school library, reading through a notice board when he saw a bright poster. It announced an upcoming academic competition, a challenge where students would present ideas to solve real-world problems. The prize was more than just a certificate. The winner would get a paid internship at a leading company in the city and a small scholarship bonus. At first, Mihailo hesitated. He thought, this is for the smart and confident students, not for someone like me. But then another voice inside him whispered, why not try? You have nothing to lose. Those words stayed with him all day. That night, as he sat in his small room, he decided, I will join. From that moment, something in him shifted. Mihailo began working harder than ever before. He read books, researched online, and watched videos to learn presentation skills. He practiced speaking in front of the mirror and even recorded his voice to improve his pronunciation. Every day after classes, he spent hours in the library. He stopped wasting time on doubts and instead focused on what he could do right now. His teachers noticed the change. One of them, a kind older professor, offered to coach him after school. You have potential, Mihailo, she said. Don't hide it. Her words filled him with energy. Slowly, he started answering questions in class. His confidence grew. When the day of the competition arrived, Mihailo walked into the large auditorium with a mix of fear and excitement. Students from across the city were there, some with expensive suits and flashy presentations. Mihailo had nothing fancy, Just a simple slideshow, a clear idea, and a heart full of determination. When it was his turn, he took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. He spoke slowly, clearly, and with passion. He explained his idea in a way that was easy to understand, using examples from his own small town. The judges listened closely. By the time he finished, the room was quiet for a moment, then filled with applause. Hours later, when they announced the winners, Mihailo's name was called first. He had done it. He had won. He stood on the stage, holding the certificate, feeling a wave of emotions, pride, relief, and joy all at once. In that moment, he remembered the English words he had been teaching himself. Success, achieving something you have worked for. Win, to come first in a competition. Learn, to gain knowledge or skill. Never give up, to keep trying, no matter how hard it gets. His victory was not just about the prize. It was about proving to himself, and to everyone who doubted him, that he belonged there. The news of his win spread quickly. Some of the same students who had once laughed at his accent now came to congratulate him. Even a few who had told him he would fail looked at him with surprise and respect. Mihailo would never forget the look on their faces. It was a mix of disbelief and admiration. The internship that came with the prize opened even more doors for him. He got to work with experienced professionals, learn about real projects, and gain skills that went far beyond the classroom. For the first time, he could see a clear path toward his future. But Mihailo didn't stop there. He began helping other students who struggled like he once did. He volunteered as a tutor for younger classmates, sharing both academic knowledge and motivational advice. I was in your place once, he told them. If I can do it, you can too. The victory was sweet, but for Mihailo, it was more than just a medal or a title. It was proof that no matter where you start, hard work and persistence can take you far. But for Mihailo, victory was not the end, it was just the beginning. Chapter 6. The lesson for all of us today. Mihailo Tolotos is no longer the shy boy from a small, quiet town. He is a confident young man who has turned his struggles into stepping stones. After graduating with honors, he began working in a respected company, but he didn't stop there. He also started giving talks in schools, community centers, and online events. Wherever he goes, he shares his story, not to show off, but to give others the same hope he once needed. When Mihailo speaks, he doesn't just talk about his victories. He talks about the rainy nights when he felt alone, the laughter that stung when people made fun of him, and the moments he almost gave up. He tells his listeners, I am not special. I am just someone who refused to stop. These words have touched the hearts of many because they are simple, honest, and true. One of the most powerful things Mihailo does now is mentor young students from low-income families. He helps them with their studies, teaches them basic English words and phrases, and most importantly, shows them how to believe in themselves. He often repeats the life lessons that carried him through his hardest days. Never stop dreaming. Your dream is like a seed. It may take time to grow, but if you take care of it, it will become something beautiful. Every failure is a step. Falling down is not the end. Every time you fail, you learn something new, and that knowledge brings you closer to success. Courage changes everything. Courage is not about having no fear. It is about moving forward even when you are afraid. These lessons are not just for students. They are for anyone watching this video right now. Maybe you are facing your own challenge. Maybe people are telling you that you can't succeed. Maybe life feels too hard, and giving up seems easier. But Mihailo's story is proof that change is possible. Think about it. If a boy from a small town, with no money, no connections, and no special advantages, can turn his life around, then what is stopping you? The path will not be easy. There will be days when you fail, when people doubt you, and when you doubt yourself. But each of those moments is part of your journey. If you are learning English, remember the words that guided Mihailo. Hope, try again, risk, change, future, success, never give up. These are not just words for a dictionary. They are words for life. Every time you say them, let them remind you of what is possible. Mihailo's life today is full of meaning, but he knows the work is never finished. He still sets new goals, still pushes himself to grow, and still faces challenges. But now, he faces them with the confidence that comes from experience. He knows that no matter what happens, he has the strength to keep going. When people ask him what his biggest achievement is, he doesn't talk about his degree or his awards. He says, "My biggest achievement is helping someone else believe they can do it too." And maybe that is the greatest victory any of us can have. Not just to climb our own mountain, but to reach back and help someone else climb theirs. So as you listen to this story, ask yourself, what is your dream? What is the thing you want but are afraid to try for? What step can you take today that will bring you closer to it? Because here is the truth. If Mihailo could do it, so can you. Call to action after Chapter 6. If Mihailo's story gave you courage, give this video a like. It tells me that you enjoyed it and want more inspiring stories like this. And if you're ready to start your own journey, write in the comments. I will never give up. I promise I will reply and cheer you on, because your dream matters. Remember, every big change starts with a small step, and maybe today is the day you take yours. And don't forget to subscribe for more simple and powerful English stories. Stories that don't just teach you new words, but give you hope, vision, and strength for your own life.